So let's sum up a few of them in one word. When I say the Utah Jazz are listening to trade offers on Donovan Mitchell, what's the one word that comes to mind?
Has to be inevitable, Greeny. When you look at what this organization did, they had a group that was put together there for several years trying to contend in the Western Conference. It didn't happen. And once you trade Rudy Gobert, you have a coaching change. It looks like they're going in a completely different direction. Joe Ingles leaves. To me, inevitable that Donovan Mitchell would eventually leave town.
When I bring up the possibility of Kyrie Irving being traded to the Lakers, what's one word for that?
Revelation, Greeny, and it's as in he had a revelation that, it wasn't so bad playing with LeBron James after all. I think this is a perfect lane for Kyrie Irving to be in. It's the one lane that he won in. He was comfortable, eventually wanted his own team in Boston. That didn't work out in Brooklyn. So now he is back in his comfort zone, potentially, if he ends up next to LeBron.
And then how about Kevin Durant? 2 weeks ago, he makes the trade request. What's one word for that?
Predictable. I mean, when you look at what happened in Oklahoma City, he went to the team that they were trying to beat in Golden State to give himself a better path to win. He doesn't like the situation now in Brooklyn, so he's going to go try to find a place where he can go win again, whether that's Phoenix or Miami, the two teams at the top of his wish list.
Yeah, and so speaking of Durant, as we sit here trying to put together a trade for him, yesterday on NBA Today, our front office insider Bobby Marks had a 4-team deal that would move both Durant and Donovan Mitchell. Here's what he thought.
Let's start with two players under the age of 25 and Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and then you add a player like Miles Turner. So that checks the boxes for Brooklyn as far as what they are looking for. Then let's go to Phoenix. Kevin Durant, okay? That checks the boxes for Phoenix. We've all talked about DeAndre Ayton in a potential offer sheet. This is a sign-in trade. He goes to Indiana. Here's the big question. Is this enough for the Utah Jazz when you look at Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, 5 first-round picks, 4 from Phoenix, 1 from Cleveland, from Indiana, and then 3 swap rights?
So that's the trade that Bobby Marks is putting together here as we're all trying to figure out how to piece it together. My insider this morning is Tim Bontemps. Tim, what do you think of it as we look at that as a possibility here to get both Durant, what he wants, it would seem, and Mitchell, what he wants, it would seem? How do we like it?
Well, I'd like it because Legs could go back to vacation. I could start mine because all the offseason business will be done all at once, which would be great. But look, I think if you look at the overall trade landscape right now in the league, the Nets don't have a deal they like for Kevin Durant. That's why Kevin Durant's still on the team. And to me, as it sits right now, with Summer League wrapping up, I don't think we're going to see a trade in the coming days. And I think that means we're getting closer and closer to the possibility of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving being on this Nets team to start the season. Now, a couple weeks ago, it didn't seem like that was going to happen. But frankly, we just have not seen the Kevin Durant trade market materialize the way we thought it would. When you look at a guy who's 34, the injury issues he's had, with the money that's on his deal, teams look at the Nets and say, this is a vulnerable team. We don't have to offer a lot for him. The Nets are saying, we've got Kevin Durant. We're not going to give him up unless we get a haul like Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and Miles Turner. So to me, if a deal like that could come together, sure, the Nets would do it. Right now, they don't have that, and that's why we're sitting where we're at.
Right, and you put these 4 teams on the screen, and I like it. I mean, yesterday, Brian Windhorst said it's hard enough to get 4 people to agree on where to have dinner. Now you're trying to get 4 teams to come together on a trade where they're all reshaping their future. It's complicated, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Bontemps does bring up, though, Legs, the possibility I've been talking about since I came back from my vacation, which is you're the Nets. I know last year was a disaster of bordering on biblical proportion, but you put together Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons because you think that is the core of a championship team. And to this point, you've still never even seen it once. Why not give it a try one time and see if you can make it happen? I continue to think the best course of action for everyone involved is for those 3 guys to stay right where they are. Legs, what do you think?
Well, listen, I hear what you're saying, and it's very possible, and Tim's right. They're probably going to end up starting the season that way because the teams just don't have the assets that it's going to take to get Kevin Durant. This is a complicated trade to try to work out to get equal value back and position yourself if you're the Nets. And if I'm Sean Marks, all I'm worried about is the Brooklyn Nets. I'm not trying to appease Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving and try to capitulate to their desires and needs and where they want to play. I'm not making a deal until I reload and restock my cabinet, so to speak, week so I can move forward and hopefully contend in the near future. So there's a very likelihood that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are in Brooklyn to start the year. To answer your question, why not do that? Because there is no situation more untenable in sports than having superstar NBA players that don't want to be there and have made it clear they don't want to be there. Now, I don't doubt that Kevin Durant will show up and play hard and try to win and compete every night, but how long does that go on if he has made it clear he wants to be traded? Can he make it to the trading deadline next season? I don't know. Is it likely to go a month and then things going to start to go off the rails when you have a 4-game losing streak? I don't know the answer to that question. Clearly, that's the most talented team you can field to try to go out and win. I just don't know that NBA teams proceed that way once you know your star players don't want to be there.
So look, Kevin Durant is the centerpiece of this because he's an historically great player. But Kyrie Irving is also an important piece, at least for the Lakers, I think. It has felt to me like something of a basketball miracle could fall in their lap if they were able to turn Russell Westbrook into Kyrie Irving, which for a moment in time there felt like it might be on the verge of happening. What role, as we watch all this take place, we had 4 teams on the screen. Lakers weren't one of them.
That's right.
What role do the Lakers play in all of this?
The Lakers are passengers, Mike. They're passengers for just the reason you said. It would be a basketball miracle if they could turn Russell Westbrook, who at this point is an expiring contract and really nothing else to them in terms of value, into a player like Kyrie Irving. Now, as we saw, Adrian Wojnarowski reported a couple weeks ago, the Lakers were the one team willing to do a sign and trade, meaning signing Kyrie Irving to a long-term deal. Why is that? Because they're desperate, right? They don't have another way to get a player of his caliber to give themselves a chance to be a championship-level team. Without Kyrie Irving, this team is not even close to a championship-level team. I think they're in the play-in tournament again. I think they could miss the playoffs again. So, yes, obviously it would be fantastic if they could get Kyrie Irving, but they're not going to be able to get Kyrie Irving with what they've got unless the Nets decide to blow this thing up. Because to me, as long as Kevin Durant is on their team, the Nets are going to hold on to Kyrie Irving and see if this thing is going to work, because while Kevin Durant's there, to your point before, the Nets have a chance to be an excellent team if they can actually get everybody on the court.
No, I agree. If they have Durant, they can't trade, or they shouldn't trade away Kyrie Irving. If they do trade away Durant, then of course you trade away Kyrie Irving.
That's where the Lakers come.
Very quickly, Legs, if I could, on the Lakers there. If you put together a core of LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving, and I know the huge if in all of this is they're all healthy when we get to playoff time. But if they are, is that a legitimate title contender? Quickly.
Yeah, I think they're a title contender. You add that kind of talent to the mix, but here's the key. Will they play enough games to have a decent seed in the regular season? That's the problem with LeBron and AD at this stage of their career, and even Kyrie Irving. And trying to come out of the 6 or 7 spot maybe in the Western Conference, that might be tough to win 3 straight series on the road as good as the West is. But I think it'd be silly to not think they could contend if you add Kyrie Irving to LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
Okay, let me put the pick bars up there then very quickly here, and let's just sort of make our predictions. So they're out there for the world to see on Bastille Day, July 14th. Tim Legler, what team, I don't know why I said that, what team will Kevin Durant be playing for next season?
Ultimately, in his best interest, I'll answer it that way. It's the Phoenix Suns. I think that's the one place that makes the most sense for Kevin Durant, because it's an organization that hasn't won, and he can go do something unique and special. And I think that could hopefully dispel a lot of the negative criticism that he gets if he were to lead a team like that to a championship.
Bontemps, what team?
I mean, you said Bastille Day because the Nets and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant have been trying to burn the league down. But while I agree with Legs that Phoenix is the best situation for Kevin Durant to go to if he goes somewhere else, I think he's going to be on the Nets for the same reason I said before. Being at Summer League the past week, there's just not interest in the kind of package necessary to get him out of Brooklyn. I think he and Kyrie are on the Nets to start the year.
It's good knowledge of French history. I also will go Brooklyn just because I think it makes sense. As ridiculous as it sounds, the best chance the Brooklyn Nets have of winning an NBA championship anytime in the foreseeable future is to try and find a way to keep those guys together.
After the Suns are close to moving DeAndre Ayton. As reported by Bleacher Report's Jeff Fisher, the only thing as I've heard from people who would know is that KD has his heart set on Phoenix. No doubt, Phoenix would be a good place for KD, but would the Nets accept any trade offer that does not involve Devin Booker? Most likely not. But one major team is flying under the radar, the Los Angeles Lakers. When the Lakers come to mind, the first thoughts immediately go towards Russell Westbrook and whether the point guard will be moved for Kyrie Irving to give LeBron James and Anthony Davis some help. but there could be a shocking trade scenario on the table where it is not Westbrook getting moved to Brooklyn, but LeBron James. That's right, LeBron James could be on the trading block if the right offer presents itself. The Lakers are all in, after all, because Westbrook could be completely untradeable and Anthony Davis is still only 29 years old and still in his prime. At this moment in time, Durant is a better player than LeBron James, and a swap of the two superstars could benefit the Lakers and give the Nets a star to continue to compete with. Could this deal actually go through? It is unlikely, but here is the trade package that could be offered and how it benefits both the Brooklyn Nets and Los Angeles Lakers. Brooklyn avoid tanking. Make the playoffs again with the King. It has been widely speculated and reported that the Brooklyn Nets do not want to simply die and roll over after they trade Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Rather, they want to remain competitive by all means, and it was shown by the move to acquire veteran defensive wing Royce O'Neal in exchange for a first-round pick. O'Neal is not a player that normally moves the needle. But why would a tanking franchise acquire a 29-year-old wing for a pick? Because the Nets aren't tanking at all. They retained energetic center Nick Claxton for the near future, and have some nice pieces including three-time All-Star Ben Simmons who is trying to get back to the court. Not to mention,